Clinton falsely claiming Donald Trump is an admitted sex assaulter. I got to say that again. Admitted sex assaulter, as she compares him to Harvey Weinstein, but claims against Bill, well, they're clearly in the past. Okay, I'm a little confused here. Here she is saying this.
This kind of behavior cannot be tolerated anywhere, whether it's in entertainment, politics.
Well,
you know, after all, we have someone admitting to being a sexual assaulter in the Oval Office. There has to be a recognition that we must stand against this kind of, action that is so sexist and misogynistic.
And this depends upon women coming forward and having the courage to come forward.
Right.
And yet in your book, the three women brought onto stage by Trump attacking your husband, and you kind of dismissed them. Was that the right thing to do? Are you sure about that?
Well, yes, because that had all been litigated. I mean, that was the subject of a huge, investigation, as you might recall, in the late 90s. And there were conclusions drawn, and that was clearly in the past.
You know who we need to bring in for this? Former Milwaukee County Sheriff and Senior Advisor for America First Action, David Clarke. David, good to see you this morning.
Morning, Sheriff.
Hey. Thank you. You know, usually I can keep a straight face, but I can't after listening to that. There's a reason why President Trump refers to Mrs. Bill Clinton as Crooked Hillary. And let's unpack this for a minute. She sat up there during the tryst that her husband was having, actual rape allegations, some of that had been proven, and she defended the actions of her husband, and she trashed the reputation of those victims. So for her to sit up here today and say victims need to be believed because they have to have the courage to come forward, and when the victims of her husband came forward, she trashed them. She called them floozies. She blamed it on a right-wing conspiracy. Now, in that clip you showed, when she said we have a admitted sexual assault person in the White House, she was going back to her husband's years, because that's when we had a sexual assault suspect inside the White House.
David, you are a man of law and order. What bothers me most about what she said, as a Yale-educated attorney, what Hillary Clinton just did, calling President Trump, or accusing him of having an admitted sexual assault, that is real specific legal language that could be defamation or slander. And as a Yale-educated attorney, she should know that. What do you make about that?
Well, she knows that that's a high threshold for a public official. You can make those kind of smears and get away with it. But look, she's proven time and time again, not only during the campaign, but during this phony book tour that she's on, that she's morally bankrupt. Her ethics elevator has no bottom floor, and she will do whatever she has to do to protect herself, her image, and her reputation. If there's one person in the United States of America, maybe in the world, who has no respect for the victims of sexual assault, the women who have been sexually assaulted or have been subject to that sort of behavior in the workplace, it's Mrs. Bill Clinton. She doesn't care about those women. Her politics matters more to her. The reputation of her husband, to prop him up in the White House for her future political endeavors, was more important to her than these victims. Actually, women's groups ought to be coming out right now and attacking her and going after her for her, not only her past treatment of women who have claimed sexual assault or sexual harassment, but for what's going on right now. I'm really surprised. If she was doing what she wanted to do, she probably would be defending Harvey Weinstein right now. But right now, she knows that the whole thing caved in on him, and she's left with nothing to do but kind of shovel dirt on his grave. But that woman is despicable.
Well, it took her
and
long
where's
enough.
Lisa Bloom?
That didn't last for more than about 2 days.
Yeah.
It took Hillary Clinton long enough to at least come out about Harvey Weinstein. But we want to get your thoughts as well on an issue I know you're passionate about. You've been speaking a lot about this, the NFL and standing for the national anthem. The president has been speaking about this as well a lot, and he used it in his weekly address. Let's take a listen to this.
You want to see those players be proud of their country. When we honor the flag, we pay tribute to the men and women who have given everything for its defense. Let us renew our commitment to love our country, protect our citizens, and ensure that this will always be the land of the free and the home of the brave.
Yeah, of course, the NFL now has this pronouncement that you have to stand, but it's not a rule that's been put in place, David.
Well, look, hooray for President Donald Trump. He wears his patriotism on his sleeve, as do I. He's right on this. The NFL continues to kick sand in the face of its fans. You know, they run their ads that the fans are the game and they're the greatest and we appreciate the fans. No, they don't. That's all phony. This is real simple. I did some timing or looked up some timing. It takes about 2 minutes and 12 seconds to sing the national anthem. If these players can't stand at attention for 2 minutes and 12 seconds, it shows not only defiance, but how undisciplined that they are. Now, Roger Goodell fumbled the football on this thing. He could have gotten rid of this a long time ago, but he chose to allow the inmates to run the asylum, and that's the players. He knows that the NFL league has the authority. First of all, this is not a rights issue. They have the authority to establish reasonable work rules. I think standing during the national anthem is a reasonable work rule. But I'll say this as well, and I think this is important too. The NFL now is saying they're going to meet with New York, the owners are going to meet in New York to discuss this situation. What is there to discuss? Look, I learned how to stand at attention for the national anthem in grade school, probably the 2nd or 3rd grade, maybe even kindergarten. What is the league owners going to do? Run training classes for the NFL Players Association?
Well, maybe they
learn
could
how to
have
stand
another
at the
meeting. It seems to be a day for meetings, David, whether in Hollywood or for the NFL with these controversies. But thanks for joining us this morning.
David Clarke,
It's my
thank you.
pleasure.
Sharon.
Democrats have something to stand on foreign policy, and they don't. It's always been a crutch for them in the past.
All right,
All right, so if the deal's kind of a Hollywood-like reality, what about a real Hollywood reality? Jimmy Kimmel on GMA, Good Morning America, talking about being the moral conscience of the nation. Here it is. Let's listen.
First of all, the Harvey Weinstein thing, people like this false equivalence as if that somehow is equivalent to what happened in Las Vegas. I mean, Harvey Weinstein is not a person is not a friend of mine. I'm not in the movie business. And I'll add that story came out, like, I think moments before we went to tape on Thursday, and we didn't have a show on Friday. So
you addressed it on the following Monday.
Yeah. So, of course, that was it's a convenient. Now what they're doing now is they're trying to drag up any kind of, especially these gun nuts, trying to drag take any comedy bit I did out of context and use it as some kind of proof. They're saying that I'm calling myself the moral conscience of America, which I most certainly never did.
Can you pick and choose? I mean, when he says he's not the moral conscience of America, it's interesting where you often hear liberals in Hollywood jumping on things like gun control and health care. How is this different? Why should we not be speaking about something so horrific?
You know, Abby, I've really been very deferential to this guy because of what he's going through, because of his child. But I have got to tell you, I'm really losing patience with him. I don't think he cares, and he probably shouldn't. But he says things that are just so ridiculous on their face. He should be embarrassed. First, he goes, "They take my comedy bits out of context." If you saw that bit, Abby, this is a family show. I literally can't even discuss what he's doing on his comedy bit with women on the show because it's that gross. There is no way to take that out of context, okay? And secondly, it's kind of fascinating that Jimmy wraps himself in morality when discussing guns and health care. Oh, you guys, we're saving the kids. We're saving grandma from the evil Republicans. And then when it's an obvious black and white moral issue, cut and dried, he runs from it because Harvey's a Democrat. There is no other reason he's avoiding this topic. It's really shameful. He should stand on principle here and say, you know what? This guy deserves it. He's got to come in next week. I got a whole bunch of bits prepared for him, but he'll never do it.
There are a lot of people that have been hypocrites on this one that have waited way too long to come out and make any statement at all. And it's important to point that out. Dan, always good to see you. How's your family? How are your girls?
Yeah, they're great. They're great. Thanks for having them up for that cooking with friends. Their school is still talking about it. So thanks a lot.
I love it.
That is awesome.
Dan, good to see you.
Thanks, Dan.
Thank
Good to see you, Dan.
Welcome back. One final point before we go tonight. It takes the most despicable kind of person to sit in the safety of her own home, surrounded by taxpayer-funded Secret Service agents, armed to the gills with firearms, willing to lay down their lives to protect her, to sit there and blame 5 million law-abiding, gun-owning members of the NRA for the mass shooting in Las Vegas. That woman today is Hillary Clinton. You know I'm not the type of broadcaster to hurl ad hominem attacks, and I'm not going to start doing that now. 58 people are dead. Over 500 others are wounded. But I will set the record straight when a politico so singularly obsessed with her own agenda stoops to the level of slandering millions of innocent law-abiding citizens for a gruesome act of mass murder. The crowd fled at the sound of gunshots, Hillary Clinton tweeted. Imagine the deaths if the shooter had a silencer, which the NRA wants to make easier to get. Well, if that isn't just freaking ignorant. Silencers don't actually silence guns. Not even close to silent. Have you ever actually learned about firearms? Because you are incredibly ill-informed, not to mention distasteful and disrespectful to make such an ignorant, politically charged comment at a time like this. Do you not care about the people who die just a little bit more than your own political aspirations?